Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. I've always told you that I like to tell stories because I think sometimes the stories can convey experiences more than just giving the facts. And so I want to tell a story about when my mom and dad were alive, and we used to go up all the time up to where the locks are on the St. Lawrence River. And there was a place where we could park, and my dad and mom could look over and see the ships coming into the locks. And there was always a number of seagulls around this place. They knew that I guess cars were going to pull up here, and maybe there was going to be some food. But the reason I want to tell you this story is what we experienced with these seagulls. And we came to almost recognize and identify some of the members of these groups. And one member in particular, my mom called Mr. Meany. And yes, M-E-A-N-Y, I guess. And there was a reason. That seagull controlled that group of birds. Unbelievable. He'd watch, and if any bird was going to go get something to eat, he'd rush at it and try to pick it away. And it was absolutely amazing. He was almost frantic in his meanness. But he was typical of what you see in so many different species, not just of birds, but of animals. There's always going to be certain leaders, certain aggressive members, and they will control what happens and tell. And in the case of Mr. Meany, something happened to him one day. And we went back probably the very next day because we were going up as much as we possibly could. And we saw Mr. Meany that was no longer Mr. Meany. He was now Mr. Wounded. And he had something had happened, and now his whole behavior was different. The other birds were picking on him, leaving him out of everything. Now, why is this important? Because I think that every one of our species in this world is affected by this type of change or variation in different participants. And I think it's the same with fish. I think you will have a group of fish, and there'll be certain fish that are the type A, the aggressive ones, that will control the activities in that group. And I think it's important that we be aware of that's why I've said so many times that when I enter a new spot, if I'm waiting or whatever, I feel that the very first cast is going to probably give me the biggest fish that's in that area, because he's going to dominate, and he's going to, if some new thing comes in there to eat, he's going to rush out and beat all the other fish or scare them away or whatever it is. And I think it's important to realize that the other thing that I've talked about before is not all fish react the same. In the same species, but some fish will fight so much more. Some fish will be so much more wary. I mean, there's differences in personalities, and I think this is important to realize when we go fishing, that every fish might give us a different experience. So with the story of Mr. Meany, and I don't know whatever happened to him, but he no longer has been part of that flock. But it has stood out, and it's something I've remembered, and it's something that I can look at as I sort of try to think about other species, and especially fish. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.